Hello and welcome to the Functionally Enlightened podcast with Dr. Sharon Sarita. We interview well-respected medical and functional practitioners, as well as patients who have overcome disabling chronic conditions, such as dysautonomia, and reclaimed their health. These enlightened guests provide helpful tips on managing chronic pain and illnesses, using a combination of traditional and whole-body healing modalities. If you're interested in natural healing and quality of life improvement, you're in the right place. Thank you for listening to today's episode.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Functionally Enlightened podcast. In this episode, we're excited to welcome Phillip Wilson, who's the founder of Relax Saunas. Relax Saunas utilize advanced ceramic semiconductor technology to deliver nearly 100% pure far infrared energy, promoting deep tissue absorption and maximum health benefits in just minutes per session. We're really excited to hear from you today, Phillip, as we know in our community, we focus on detoxification, the reduction of inflammation and circulation, all of those things. So we welcome you to the show today, Phillip.
Well, it's a pleasure. One of my most fun things is to talk about the Relax Sauna, because it's going to transform a person's health and their life in 3 days to 3 weeks. And I'm into transformation. I'm into freedom. I'm into assisting people so they can feel more alive. And the Relax Sauna really helps you do that. So here I am. How can I service you?
All right. Well, first off, what brought you into this type of functional working space?
Well, I have an honors degree in mathematics and 4 years of graduate school in math. And I was expected to be by the math department and by me to get a PhD in math and eventually become like a chairman of a math department or something like that. And that didn't happen because I had some experiences. I guess I had an out-of-body experience that I didn't know I had. I had an awakening. And so I was a thinker and I became like a feeler. And so, and my body chemistry changed. Then I met someone who showed me these techniques and my whole body was electrified and every single cell in my body was vibrating. And all of a sudden I ate meat 3 days later and it just put my head into a space. My mind wouldn't function. I had to meditate for 6-7 hours before I felt alive. And then 4 days later, I did the same way with a ham steak. And so I basically had to become almost like a fruitarian. I was living on dates and figs and cashews for about 80% of my diet. And then a year later, I taught high school math to pregnant girls in Gary, Indiana, and I was going to get a master's degree in math, come back to Ohio State University, and I was going to get a teaching certificate, and I didn't get either. And I, through a technicality, I couldn't get my master's degree. So the job I had lined up at a junior college didn't come through. So I started selling herbal vitamins because I was really into fasting and health foods, and I did that part-time, and then I jumped off and started selling it full time because all the jobs I applied to, they didn't want me or I didn't want them. And, everything was all lined up. So eventually in 1980, I opened up a health food store. I got into the Dr. Christopher herbs. I got into rebounding and inversion machines and massage tools and massage sandals and anything weird that you could think of. And I sold that to health food stores and health professionals. I had about 50 different massage tools. I was selling green powders in 84. I was like the first one to sell to stores green powders. I was selling essential oils in 86. I was selling medicinal mushrooms, Chinese herbal combinations, chlorine dioxide, all these sort of cutting edge products, spirulina, chlorella, all the vital nutrients that would make people rejuvenated. And then I did this for 20 years. I sold to health food stores. In 1997, I closed my wholesale division, just had my retail store, and that's when the internet started. So I got on the internet, and by October of 98, I was selling about $15,000 worth of massage tools on the internet. And so, and during these years, I was going to these expos, these holistic health expos, and selling. One time I had a whole van loaded with about 100 herbal products, about 100 different charts, about 30 or 40 different massage tools, colored therapy glasses, neti pots, and natural vision glasses, and all sorts of stuff that was strange and weird. And then I did that, and then basically in 2001, after selling massage tools at a biological dentist show, the next show in Las Vegas, the next day there was a spa show. And I went to it, and there was one of my massage tool suppliers. And what did they have at their booth? But a portable sauna. Oh my God. I love saunas. I couldn't believe you could have a sauna in your home. I mean, it's like, just think of a little boy or a little girl on Christmas morning. I mean, that's how excited I was. And then I got a sauna. And then a year later, after selling 6 of those in 1 year and doing it, it would take me 18 minutes to sweat, 55 minutes to have a really good sweat. And I was happy as a lark. I mean, I was really, really happy, and I loved it. I did it almost every day. Then I got a call from Taiwan, and this was the life changer. And they said, our technology is a little bit more advanced. We saw that you're very prolific. Mandy had gone to San Diego State University and got her degree in marketing. Her father sent her there from Taiwan. And then after working for her father for a year, the father said to her, Mandy, you want to keep your job, don't you? Yeah, Dad, yeah. You need to sell a sauna in the United States. because she she was in charge of North and South America. So she called me on the phone and sold me a sauna. And when it came 2 days later, FedEx from Taiwan, it was unbelievable, the difference. It was like night and day. It started up quickly. You were sweating in 7-8 minutes. And 20 minutes is all it took to have an incredible profuse sweat. So that's how I got started. And I sold 24 of those my first year. And then 60 the next year. Last year, we sold 6,000 of them.
Wow.
So it's taken me
Incredible.
a long time because, I, as an undergraduate at Indiana University, I was in a fraternity house, and all the pre-med people would laugh at the business majors. And I sided with them because it's sort of like I was into the science and the math. And boy, what a mistake. Because it took me all these years to build my business with no capital, but I finally got it going about 4, 5, 6 years ago. Like, I think we went from 2,000 saunas in 2019 to, I think, 4,000 saunas in 2021 to 6,000 saunas last year.
Amazing.
And so it's and I have met many, many, many individuals. There are a lot of famous, well-known holistic doctors who swear by the Relax Sauna, many athletes, a few baseball teams. And it's so much fun to sit there at a booth and say the right thing that inspires a person to say, yeah, I need this. But it's not so much what I say, it's what I do. I say, get in the sauna. I said, get in there, but I don't want to sweat. I said, you're not going to sweat. It takes 8 minutes to sweat. You're going to feel like your grandma's giving you a big loving hug. And it's if you have pain or any kind of, anxiety or anything, 50% to 100% of your pain will be gone, guaranteed, every time in 5 to 7 minutes without sweating with your clothes on. And so all of a sudden, this one woman says, maybe I will get in.
Give it a try.
Yeah, it's like I said, it feels like your grandma's giving you a loving hug. That's a great hook.
Yeah.
Well, that feels good. And some people say, not my grandma. I said, well, the loving grandma you wished you had. And so, by doing 5 to 6 minute treatments, and a massage therapist can do that. They can put people in for 5 to 7 minutes before a massage. If you do lymph drainage, if you do body work, if you're a chiropractor, you do adjustments. If you're a psychologist or energy healer or psychiatrist or anything, and you're going to talk to people, get in the Relax Sauna for 5 to 7 minutes. It opens up your heart. You feel warm, you feel loved. Now, you've done a lot of scientific research on saunas, haven't you?
I've done quite a bit, and the ones that I've usually used are full spectrum. So I know yours is far infrared. So how does that far infrared therapy differ first from, the conventional steam and the steam saunas, and how does that impact the body?
Well, there was a lady named, she goes by Dr. Boz. She's not far from you. She's in Tampa,
Okay.
and she speaks on the keto diet. And she was at a conference about a year ago that we were at, and this one of my associates was there and said, and she sold maybe 6, 7 saunas in the last year or two. And he said, why don't you interview Phil? She says, okay. So she interviewed me, and she sold about 200 or 300 saunas in 6 weeks. And in the last 6 months, she sold another 300. And she had a steam sauna. And then they got the Relax Sauna. And again, it was night and day. And she's a doctor. She's in the Tampa area. But first of all, if you're going to do a steam sauna, you want to make sure that the water you use is really pure. But the Mayo Clinic, way back in 2004, they came out with a lot of PR on saying that they recommend far infrared saunas for all their heart patients. And they say, do not use a Finnish sauna, do not use a hot tub, because those work with heat. And we're talking about loving, healing light. We're talking about an energy frequency. Pythagoras, who was the father of modern mathematics, was a spiritual teacher, and he said that everything vibrates. Everything vibrates. Every herb vibrates. Every plant vibrates. Every animal vibrates. Every mineral vibrates. And so it turns out that we are far infrared light beams. So that's one reason why far infrared light is more therapeutic than the near infrared or the mid infrared, because water is a far infrared molecule, and it's all about the water. There's so much, if you can vibrate the water molecules, and there's a researcher, a scientist in Japan named Dr. Yamaguchi, and he has said that the 7 to 14 micron frequency, that's far infrared ray. Far infrared starts at 4 and it goes to 1,000. But only the 7 to 14 frequency causes your water molecules to vibrate. And when that happens, it weakens the ionic bonds. And this is crucial because water clusters, and this breaks up the water clusters, and the clustered water traps poisonous toxic gases. And so those are released from the body along with heavy metals. And another thing that vibrating the water molecules do, see, a far infrared sauna does one thing. It sends off a frequency of light that vibrates your water molecules. That's all it does. Now, near infrared penetrates about 1 to 2 millimeters and is very helpful for the skin. The mid infrared is helpful for the muscles. And the far infrared is helpful for the skin, the muscles, the joints, the bones, and the core of the body, and vibrates the water molecules everywhere in your body, including the skin and the muscles and through the bone. Now, when you go out in the hot sun and you close your eyes, you can feel that deep searing warmth to the core. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, now, have you ever wondered how turtles' eggs hatch?
Tell us.
Chickens cheat. They lay on the eggs, but turtles were smarter. They just lay the eggs in the sand 2 inches, and the far infrared goes 2 inches into the sand, and the sand does not get hot, but the water does in the turtle egg. And so it increases the body temperature in the water in the turtle egg, and the turtle hatches.
Hmm.
And it's like Hippocrates, the father of modern medicine, said, find me a way to create fever and sweat, and I will cure any disease there is. And that's profound. And you know this from your own therapy. You know, the sauna you have was very, very helpful. We didn't talk about this in advance, but the far infrared sauna that you have, that was very helpful in your healing, wasn't it?
Yes, but in my case, when you have dysautonomia, you struggle with temperature dysregulation, you struggle with orthostatic hypotension. And so when I started, I really had to start small, like 2 or 3 minutes, and never increase the temperature above 105. And that really took me time to build. So
Yeah.
what would be your recommendations for that highly sensitive individual, the one who has nervous system dysregulation?
Well, you're in before I answer that, I'll mention that, people with Lyme disease, they call it a Herxheimer effect or Herx. Like some people can only go in for 3 minutes or 7 minutes.
Mm.
And the eighth minute, they start detoxing too much. So you know that it works. And so you just have to do it gingerly and find your rhythm. Now, in the Relax Sauna, we have a very sophisticated temperature control device that keeps the sauna from getting too hot. It's called a zipper. It's like you just unzip the sauna.
Yeah, easy
Now
enough.
we also have two radiators. See, the technology in the Relax Sauna is different than any other sauna on this planet. It's the only one that uses semiconductor chips. Now, a semiconductor chip, when we had COVID, we had trouble getting cars because all the cars use semiconductor chips. And Taiwan makes 94% of the world's semiconductor chips. And it's a computer program that takes the electricity and filters out all the energy that's not far infrared ray. In other words, it took the Relax Sauna 10 years to get all the near infrared out of the frequency that it was being emitted and all the mid infrared. And so when a company says we're full spectrum, we look at each other and say they're admitting they're not all far. So see, we sent in Massachusetts, Harvard, MIT Science and Technology Lab. We sent them 3 saunas. We sent them a $1,300 portable sauna, which is a full spectrum sauna and low EMF. We sent them the Relax Sauna. We sent them a $250 Amazon sauna. They measured the frequency of each sauna. They measured the penetration intensity of each sauna, and they measured the EMF. Now, the EMF from my cell phone is 100 times more dangerous than the EMF of any household appliance. And Dr. Yamaguchi says that far infrared light between 7 and 14 microns actually is an antidote for microwave EMF. And it's also an antidote for, believe it or not, sunburn. See, sunburn is an overexposure of ultraviolet light. I have demonstrated the Relax Sauna since 2003, 22 years. I've put over 150,000 people in the Relax Sauna. I've seen 30,000 minor and major miracles. It heats up in 30 seconds. In 7 to 8 minutes, you're ready to sweat. In 15 minutes, you're dripping. In 20 minutes, you're drenched. Now, at the shows, occasionally someone wants to go 10 or 15 minutes because all their pain is going away, and they just don't care. I tell people you get into a fork in the road. You're in at 8 minutes. You're starting to sweat. What do? Well, you can get out because you don't want to sweat, or you can stay in because it feels so damn good.
Mm.
And a little bit of sweat is okay. But this one guy in Albuquerque at a extraordinary technology conference, he had sciatica pain for the last 6.5 weeks, pain 7, 8 constant, except occasionally would go down to a 3 or a 5, and he'd be able to sleep for 2 or 3 hours. Well, he went in for 15 minutes and he came out a little bit wet. But he was jumping up and down and saying, "Look, no pain." He was like, it's not that he couldn't believe it, because he was seeing it, so he believed it.
Mhm.
But he said, if I was a multimillionaire, I'd buy one of these for every single old age home in the country, because he was so amazed at what it did. And if you were a fly on the wall and you heard all the things that people said after 5 to 7 minutes in this sauna, you would buy in a heartbeat, you would buy a Relax Sauna for your home, or for your spa, because a lot of doctors, like massage therapists, body workers, even naturopathic doctors, colon hydrotherapists, lymph drainage, whatever, they get them and they put people in for 5 to 7 minutes, and then they do the treatment on them. And the massage therapists say that it's like butter melting in a microwave. It's like the fascia is warm, and so you can just go in and get your work done a lot better. And that's one of the features that the Relax Sauna offers. Like are you familiar with Hippocrates Institute in West Palm Beach, Florida?
I'm not.
It's not just a cancer clinic, but it's for any kind of chronic pain or everything. That it started, Ann Wigmore was the person who inspired it. She started the Hippocrates Clinic in Boston with Victoris Kulvinskas way back. So Dr. Brian Clement runs that, and he travels with a Relax Sauna. He was selling a wooden sauna for years and years and promoting it. But right now he went to Costa Rica about a month ago. He called up the hotel. No, they don't have a sauna. So he took the Relax Sauna in a suitcase to Costa Rica because it's travel friendly. It folds down into where it could fit in a 20, the tent and the radiator can fit in the 24-inch suitcase. If you have it, the chair comes with it, that can fit in a 28-inch suitcase if it's 21 inches wide, or just take the carrying bag, and carry with it. But it's exciting now. So anyway, the report from Harvard MIT Science and Technology Lab, the Relax Sauna was 100% 7 to 14 micron. It's the fourth. A Polytechnic University in LA also told us that, and two laboratories in Taiwan had also told us that. But I didn't realize when I started selling these and using them in 2003, 2002, I didn't realize that we only had 4 to 14 or 7 to 14. I thought all the saunas, and I thought all the saunas had 20 to 50%. We have 100% measured 4 times. The $1,300 sauna, their range was from 1 to 6 microns. And so they only had 8% far infrared. They had 37% mid and 55% near. So they are a full spectrum sauna.
Mm-hmm.
And they were, the Amazon sauna was 100% near. It's like, wait a second, you're talking about, I have an infrared sauna, and you talk all about the research on far infrared saunas, and then you send off this sauna that has nothing to do with the research, and people get it home and it works and it's good. It's because any sauna is good. They're all going to be helpful because they all get you to sweat, and that's cleansing. And if they have a little bit of near or far, the sweat is going to have a lot of toxins. They say that far infrared saunas, 17% of the sweat is toxins. In a finished sauna, 2%. So the Relax Sauna tested 350% more depth and intensity of penetration than the $350 sauna, and 450% more than the Amazon sauna, which means the $1,300 sauna was only 20% more therapeutic than the $250 sauna.
Mm-hmm.
So all saunas are not alike, and that's what. But besides, even if the great wooden saunas for $8,000, and they're great, and they have a track record, and they're very helpful, and so many people who use them through their cancers, through their Lyme disease, they've all been helped. There was a lady in Palm Springs her name was Paula, and she had a wooden sauna that didn't help with her mold toxicity, but she got the Relax Sauna, and with months it worked, and she was just totally radiant. And she also goes into the houses to make them EMF safe. And I have 4 people in Arizona and Southern California who all own Relax Saunas, and they go into houses to make them safe. So people concerned about the EMF, they don't need to be, you know. And what I was telling you, I put 7 people in the Relax Sauna who had 8 sunburn. But the last thing you think you would want to go, right?
Is heat. Mm-hmm.
Every single one of them in 7 minutes, 5 minutes, no pain at all.
Interesting. Yeah.
And that's because the far infrared light is it's loving light. Okay. It penetrates, and not everyone, but about 30% of the people who get in can feel the energy moving in their body, and they can feel the energy. Now, it's interesting because it's a light and not heat, right? So cats lie in the sun. Now, something interesting about light, there's a principle of light that you're probably aware of. It's called reflection. We use that means light is reflected by a mirror. And if it's invisible, it's still reflected by a mirror, okay? Because that's a hard one to take. But when you go into the sauna, and there's 2 of them in back of me, sort of there is and there's not, because that's just a picture I took at one of my conferences. But when you go inside and you turn it on, there's 2 radiators in front, and they hit the back wall, and then they bounce, and they ricochet, and so there's a beautiful even distribution of the healing light, and you can feel it from your lower back, your upper back, your sides, your arms, and it's not the heat, it's the light that is the therapy.
I'm going back to a couple of points that you made earlier about the time frame, you know, I guess the practical use of it in a therapeutic facility versus what someone would do ideally at home. And if I'm thinking about people that have limited mobility, I know that you offer the chair in there, but if they cannot tolerate too much of any one position, and you're saying that within a compressed time frame, they're able to get the same benefits, or is there more of a protocol that you would aim for these type of people to work towards to get the most benefit?
Yeah. Now there's a in 5 to 7 minutes. See, first of all, far infrared goes through clothes. Now,
Good point.
Ultraviolet does not. We don't get a suntan if we're wearing clothes. Red light does not. Near infrared does not. Mid infrared does not. Far infrared does.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one of the reasons why, and again, it's like I'm stretching you a little bit. You are a far infrared light beam. You vibrate at 9.4 microns, and water vibrates at 8 microns, although this morning I read it also vibrates at 9.4 microns, which makes sense because we're mostly water.
Right, right.
You know, I think 70% of the cells in our body are water. And Dr. Gerald Pollack, who wrote The Fourth Phase of Water, are you familiar with that book?
I'm not.
But anyway, he says that we're actually 99% water. But anyway, if we're at 8 microns and 9.4 microns, and I give you the 7 to 14 micron frequency, it's the same frequency as you. So if your eyes are closed, you know, and since you can't see it anyway, you don't notice it. So because you don't notice it, you don't resist it. So because you don't resist it, it's absorbed into the body and penetrates very deeply. Now, the near infrared is so far away from what you are that you resist it unconsciously. But so it can only penetrate a couple millimeters. And so it's good for the skin. And again, I'm told it doesn't go through clothes, and the same with the mid. But the far infrared does, and it vibrates the water molecules, and it vibrates the water in the skin, in the muscles, throughout the whole body, and even in the bones.
Mm-hmm. That was a good question that I often get. How deep does it actually penetrate? And if it goes through the bones, then
Yeah.
obviously, more than just a couple millimeters like the other
Right.
wavelengths. Mm-hmm.
Well, it goes 2 inches. However, it's really strange, but you probably talk to your neighbors occasionally, don't you?
Right.
So the cells, they talk to each other, and that every cell is like the telephone. But so in other words, like the whole body gets it.
Mm-hmm.
Body gets it. And see, so what you've done, and like this one guy did research on reddit.com. Now he looked at all the research, and there are hundreds of articles. We have a book called Infrared Illuminated that we sell on our website. The website is relaxsaunas.com. And this lady wrote the book about a year ago, and she'd been using the Relax Sauna for 2 years. Now, recently, she found out she could put her head inside. And since then, her hair is growing like crazy, and she was loving it before. But what happens is according to all the research, the far infrared saunas, one of the golden means of measuring the therapeutic value of a sauna is how much does it increase heart rate variability. And that's called HRV.
Right. We just interviewed Dr. Torkel, who talked to us a little bit about HRV and the different tracking devices.
Now, about a couple months ago, this chiropractor got in the Relax Sauna, and he had an Apple Watch on. His Apple Watch said, your HRV is 50. And then when he was in the sauna, true to the nature of a sauna, it went down to 30. And when he got out, it went to 136. Is that a lot?
That is a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. And the guy was instantly, he gave us his credit card. I mean, it's like, how is this possible? Because
Right. I don't think I've gotten above 60.
Okay. Well, so we had sent the Relax Sauna and the $1,300 sauna to a place in Chicago to do some comparison and some research on the Relax Sauna. We did 2 studies, and the second one we sent that to, and they said the difference in HRV was remarkable, significant. Mm-hmm. And there's a guy who posted in 2017 on reddit.com, and when he saw all the research on saunas, he said, man, that'd be so fantastic if that $250 Amazon sauna could do all that. So he bought it. He measured the temperature inside the sauna. He mentioned your body temperature. He did that for 25 minutes, every minute. And he got that sauna to raise body temperature 1/2 a degree. And the HRV, it didn't increase 1 iota. So, he's looking online, and everyone's raving about this $500 Amazon sauna. So it says, great. And he got it. Same results. So then he's deciding what to do. And he saw the Relax Sauna. He said, okay, with being a little skeptical, he got it anyway. It raised the body temperature 2.9 degrees. It raised the heart rate variability so much that it blew him away. It was significantly more than what the other infrared saunas can do. And he said, this, along with cold showers, is what I recommend. He said, I'd love to be able to say that the $250 Amazon will do the trick, but it doesn't. So I have no choice but to recommend you get the Relax Sauna. And so I don't even know the man. I don't know where he got his sauna, but this, and we have many doctors, and a lot of people, got that shot in 21 and got injured from it. And I've got 2 nurses who were speaking at a conference. They both got into the sauna and they both cried because the one lady could feel the tingling in her hands for the first time in 2 years. And the other lady, she couldn't feel the circulation between her foot and her hip. And she was able to feel it in her leg for the first time. So we, and again, this lady got rid of her mold toxicity in Palm Springs. And we have 900 plus videos, testimonials on YouTube at our YouTube channel. And if, one guy, I was at a chiropractor show and I told the guy about the channel, And he watched about 20 or 30 of those, and his wife said, "Go to bed, go to bed." He was so excited because I think he had a serious ailment, and he was looking at all these testimonies. And but it's on, if you go to YouTube and put in Relax Sauna testimonials, and then you go to then you click on the Relax Sauna logo, and then you put videos, and then you put Lime, and you see about 20 different people saying, it's a year later, I don't have any symptoms, or it's 3 months later, or it's 1 week later, and wow, it's another guy who lives in Connecticut. I mean, it transformed his life. And we get these stories all the time. So it's very heartwarming, to do this. And when I first started selling the Relax Sauna, the portable saunas, the $250 Amazon sauna was selling for $595, and the Relax Sauna was selling for $695. And now the Relax Sauna is $1,700, and the Amazon sauna is $250. It is because we were way underpriced and they were way overpriced. But did I answer your question?
You did, and just going back again to the people, we're talking about protocols that they can initiate. So if someone has this, and it's a good thing that it's a portable unit too, that they can place it in an area close to their bathroom, or if they are fortunate enough to have like an ice bath, because a lot of the times when my clients, they try to do heat exposure and they go under that hormesis, that extra stress, that
Yes.
wipes them out. They're not able to do a whole lot. They basically have to do that towards the end of the day and then call it a night. And sometimes if they haven't properly developed a protocol, or if they haven't been sticking to their protocol where they're using, the appropriate minerals, or we could say electrolytes, or binders even, to prevent that Herx reaction, I know that the location of the sauna itself, even that small of a detail, is very important. And, with a portable unit, that's probably one of the main points that people are looking for too.
Well, what people like about the Relax Sauna is that there's no preheating.
Yes.
So you can just go in, and also you can immediately, by unzipping the zipper, like 6 inches, 8 inches, or even all the way up down to your knees or down to your ankles, you can sit in it. And like if I some occasionally, I've been using it every morning for about 23 years. I've used it over 8,000 times. It puts a cup of coffee to shame in the morning. But again, I came into this with not really health problems, just minor issues, but not anything that was debilitating energy wise.
Mm-hmm.
I would meditate in it initially, and it gets you into that sweet spot in half the time. A lot of people, one lady said her heart opened up. Other people say their problems go away. The anxiety goes away. If you have any kind of indigestion, it's one of the best things to get rid of any kind of indigestion or stomach ache. One lady was a vegetarian. She said, I just ate some meat. I shouldn't go in. I said, no, now you want to go in. But for the Herxheimer effect, or many of the people who you're in close circle with, who are very, very sensitive, you just do it gingerly. You have two switches. You've got one for each radiator. You can see that blue handle. It's in the wrong place. That's funny.
We can see it.
But like if I take the picture away, you can see I have a sauna in back of me. I'll just take it away for just a second. Okay. There you go. See, that's my sauna.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a folded towel on the chair that's usually underneath the draped towel, and you have a draped towel. And then there it is. That's backwards. I'm saying it's supposed to be on the right, but this is a mirror image.
Right.
So if you go in there, and then you can just keep it you can keep it totally open like that. And you could zip it up to the knees. And so because a lot of times we do conferences and people, they can't handle the heat. I'd say about 10% of the people can't, or, you know, and so they keep it. And we also have two switches, like on the left, if you're looking at it on the left, there's a black thing, that a black holder and a timer, and you have two switches, one for each radius. So you can turn one off, so that way you can adjust it. And so, you know, if your health is compromised, you can do it very gingerly and gradually so that it's not too much. And then like most people, like when we go to the first time we were at a Lyme conference, I think we sold 43 saunas. I mean, we were the hit of the show. The man who was the president of the organization has a wooden sauna, and we were at another medical group conference for medical doctors, and his friend said, "Go in there," you know, and he said, "All right." He went in, you know, he said, "I have a wooden sauna already," and then he got out and said, "Oh my God, I'm buying it." And then the next day he came back, like he said, Phil, you have to go to our Lyme show, the ILADS conference. You have to go there. It's in 3 months, you know, and it was like $4,000 for a booth. I said, "Oh my God." So my wife and I said, "Oh, what?" We just knew we had to do it. You know what I mean? And it was like the best show ever. We sold like 43 saunas, and so many doctors, so many patients, you know, got incredible relief because it works, because the far infrared is the active ingredient. I was talking about, if you're promoting if you're extolling the values of vitamin B12, and you have a website, and now you're selling a B complex formula, and I order it and I get it home. I said, "How come there's so little B12?" And so, you know, like all the portable Amazon saunas, they talk all about what infrared saunas do, and I'll talk more about what fever does. And then they have their sauna, and there's no far infrared. There's very little far infrared. I thought they had about 20%, but it turns out from this one study, you know, they used carbon panels, it only had 0%, and I was shocked. But, you know, see, the far infrared between 7 and 14 is the active ingredient. And you're familiar with turmeric and curcumin, right?
Right.
I mean, curcumin is really good at getting rid of the pain. And so if you take turmeric and you make a tea out of it, and you let it evaporate, and you take that extract and you put it in there along with the turmeric, it's going to have more of the active ingredient in it. So the more the active ingredient, the more therapeutic it's going to be. So it's like, we give you 100% pure active ingredient, and we call it loving light, 7 to 14 micron light. I mean, you know, you can call it whatever you want, but it's the frequency that resonates with the water molecules and vibrates it. It resonates with your body.
Mm-hmm.
And so the more of that you have, you know, like there's a guy who, he has a website, he sells lots of saunas and recommends them, or he sells a few of them and recommends, he tested 30 saunas, but he came out and said, the more far infrared you have, the more therapeutic it's going to be. And, you know, some companies, they have near and they have mid and far, and they're going to help. Of course they do. They've got a track record. You know, like if you live 5 miles from a grocery store and you get a vehicle, like a bicycle is a vehicle, and I mean, you're going to tell everyone how wonderful the bicycle is. And then I'm saying, I got a vehicle, and you say, I already have a vehicle. Well, mine's called a Mercedes. You know, try it. He says, "Oh, all right." And he tries it. And he goes to the grocery store. So, wow, I got there so much faster. And you know something? I was able to take all my groceries home in one trip. And so, you know, every sauna is going to be helpful. You know, Dr. Bill Ackpiner wrote a book called No Sweat, No Sweat. And he's a cancer doctor, and he's an acupuncturist and a Chinese medical doctor and a Qigong master. And he's been recommending the Relax Sauna for 15 to 18 years. And many 5 cancer clinics sell the Relax Saunas to their patients after they visit for 1 or 2 weeks. So anyway, you know, you want to be able to see fever. Hippocrates says, find me a way to great fever. And this is what a fever does, because the far infrared sauna gives you a raise in body temperature, which is a fever. And there's a book that we have called The Power of Fever. And if you look at PubMed.com and do all the research on what does a fever do, it does 5 main things. 1, it detoxifies the body, it mobilizes the lymph. 2, it increases the circulation, and that lowers the blood pressure. A stagnant pond is a great breeding ground for mosquitoes, and stagnant areas of your body are great breeding grounds for mold and bacteria.
Mm-hmm.
And then it oxygenates the body. It floods the body with oxygen, and oxygen kills everything. It kills anaerobic bacteria, not everything. It kills all the bad guys, and the good guys thrive. And so it kills some of the parasites. There's a hospital in Germany called St. George Hospital, and they raise the body temperature called hyperthermia, and they kill everything. And then they have sophisticated medical equipment that doesn't let the body get to 108 degrees, because then the body dies. So they get it close, but not over the edge.
Mm-hmm.
There's a place I just discovered, I think it's called Eden something or other, in Loveland, Colorado. And what they do is they put you in a bathtub, and they raise the body temperature to 108, 112 degrees, which is hot.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I love hot springs, I mean, that was the inspiration for the Relax Sauna that I'll talk about later. But the hot springs, I can't handle more than 104, 105, maybe 107, but 108 to 112. And then they cold presses on you, and they keep you in there, and they raise your body temperature, and that kills everything. So at any rate, what the fourth and most important thing about what having a fever does and the Relax Sauna is more so, it activates the parasympathetic nervous system. And that gets you into the now, that gets you outside of time and space. And I discovered a great definition of pain. You want to hear it?
Right.
It's the awareness of time. Have you ever hurried?
All the time.
Painful. Have you ever worried?
Yes.
Very painful. Have you ever waited?
All the time as well.
See, so
There's always something.
right,
Stressor.
I don't do drudgery no more. I don't do waiting. I just get in the present moment and enjoy myself. But if when you fall asleep at night, your conscious caffeine nervous mind gets out of the way, and that's when healing can take place. So when your parasympathetic nervous system is activated and you get in this space, you just feel like you're just basking in divine love. You're being hugged by a warm blanket or by a loving grandma, and you're just right there. And then what happens is then the mitochondria start creating nitric oxide and ATP. So all of a sudden you're super relaxed, and all of a sudden you're energized. But it's not that nervous caffeine kind of energy. It's pure, real, like almost spiritual energy, where you're grounded, you're connected, and you can speak with authenticity because you're in the now and you're responding instead of reacting. And that's beautiful.
Yes.
And that's where the healing takes place. I was this one lady, she had not the sauna you had, but she had an $8,000 wooden sauna, and she her husband and she had it. She came down to at a mental health conference and did a 30-minute sweat in her bathing suit. And then about an hour later, she came down and said, Phil, I experienced, after 8 to 10 minutes in the Relax Sauna, I experienced the deepest, most profound sense of relaxation that I've ever had in my life. Wow. And that's how healing takes place for anyone. It's you get deep and you get connected, and you get connected to that which you are, to the inner guidance, or even call it God. You get connected, and because of that, and you've let go of all your concerns, all your worries, and you're just there. And so you set yourself up to be healed.
Yes. Now, Philip, you touched on so many good points there. And before we wrap up, I want to key in on some of those points that you made. That parasympathetic mode is something that we all strive to get into, because with Asia syndrome and with dysautonomia, we're stuck in that sympathetic or that fight or flight mode nonstop, even when we're trying to sleep. So if you have what we would call a biohacking device that can aid with getting you into that parasympathetic mode quickly. You talked about the microcirculation piece, especially with the vibrations of the water molecules and how that can enhance circulation in the body. We do want to mobilize those toxins. You're going to be able to mobilize them with the proper other diagnostic nutrition practices. You can excrete them correctly through the skin and then through the other excretion pathways. But there was the other component as well. In the very beginning, we were talking about it. Now, I'll see if I can remember that the first component. Can you jog my memory a little bit on that?
It's the detoxification, the purification. You're mobilizing the lymphocytes, the white blood cells. They're coming out of wherever they're coming out of. They're either coming out of hibernation or they're being birthed, but they're the ones that kill all the junk. See, a clean engine works better than a dirty engine. I know that's hard to believe. Incidentally, you know the way a washing machine works? You have solid clothes, you have invisible water, and the water actually penetrates the clothes. You know, it's hard to believe, but we call it saturated. It saturates the clothes, and we call it wet. And it cleanses every fiber. Every single fiber of that clothing is cleansed by the water. In the same way, every single cell of your body is cleansed by the invisible far infrared light that penetrates into your body very deeply to cleanse every cell of the body. And that's one of the reasons why it is so therapeutic. I mean, now there's a whole lot of, like, there's red light machines, and there's a guy who wrote a book on red light therapy, and he interviewed one of my associates, and I think he must have done 140 saunas with that one interview. But again, this is not red light or this. They all have different abilities. But each of these things, whether it be hyperbaric oxygen, whether it be ozone, whether it be PEMF or near infrared lasers or micro current machines, that's Batman. The Relax Sauna can be your Robin. In other words, we make all of them work better. Professional athletes, they golfed at a golf range in Pittsburgh, 27 irons, got in the sauna for 7 minutes to Relax Sauna, 20 more shots, 10% average increase. The Los Angeles Dodgers, they used the Relax Sauna during the last 3 years, and we had to send 2 of them. They played the National League Championship in Citi Field. Got a picture of one of the players in Citi Field using the Relax Sauna. It will help with recovery. It will help with performance. It will help to prevent injury. It's like, marathon runners after a workout, man, it can give you your day back. But again, we're talking about people who have health problems, chronic pain. Now here's something that you want to know, that Dr. Sherry Rogers wrote a book, Detoxify or Die. You're familiar with that book?
Who was it, doctor?
Dr. Sherry Rogers. And the book came out in 2001. It's called Detoxify or Die. 80% of the book is far infrared sauna. She was an environmental medical doctor. And in the late 90s, people with multi-chemical sensitivities and environmental concerns were all left to dead by the medical establishment. And they found a way to her door. And she got them all healthy using far infrared saunas in the late 1990s. She came out of her book in 2001 and spawned an industry. She says in that book that we are far infrared light beings. We shine between 3 and 50, but mostly 9.4 microns. What she said, and this is why I'm bringing it up, because of what we talked about. She says it's the only thing she knows of at that time that can get plastics out of the body is a far infrared sauna.
Yeah.
And we had a lady who had a breast implant explode or something like that. It messed up her body and poisoned her.
It ruptured.
And yeah, that's a good way. Ruptured. That's a good word. So anyway, her voice was really raspy, and her voice became so much normal, and all the gunk got out. Now we also have another lady who's in her 60s, and she had lost her soprano. And after being in the Relax Sauna just a couple of weeks, she was able to hit the high notes that she could do in her prime. It's one of the best things for the voice.
Yeah, that is amazing. And that's something that our audience would be interested in hearing more. Unfortunately, we don't have too much more time, but definitely detoxifying from the microplastics. We're learning more about polypropylene meshes degrading in the body. So we don't want necessarily the mesh to degrade, but all of those fibers that are finding their way in the body, they are doing systemic damage. So we want to get those out in a safe and effective manner. And I think a combination of what the Relax Saunas can do and with appropriate binders, that could be very, very helpful for many.
Yeah, we just went to a conference. I think Cellcore. They have binders that they sell.
Yes.
And so we demonstrated the Relax Sauna at their conference. They had, I don't know, about 900 doctors. We did very, very well there. But, if you do the binder before, a half hour before you do the Relax Sauna, you're going to get better results. And so, it's like, what I tell people, I tell athletic trainers, I said, whatever you do to your athlete, or if you're a PT, whatever you do with your patient, okay, do the best you can, and then use a Relax Sauna, you'll get better results. There is a 30-day money-back guarantee, but we have to do that because, that's a lot of money to spend and not to know that it's going to work. But it's like, the person who they ordered a sauna, and it worked. It worked. I mean, we had one person who had a wooden sauna like about 20 years ago, and then he got the Relax Sauna so he could have a portable sauna. And then he said, guess what? He called me a couple months later. I sold my other sauna because, I was loving it, but the Relax Sauna is so much more therapeutic. It feels so much better that I sold my wooden sauna that I've had for 5 or 10 years. And Dr. Robert O. Young, he's been using saunas for 35 years, and he uses the Relax Sauna every day. And so people can have $10,000, $20,000 worth of saunas. See, I like to say that the Relax Sauna it sells for $1,700. The black one sells for $2,300. I like to say that that we're worth our, like MasterCard is priceless. Well, we're worth about $20,000 because the semiconductor chips are very, very expensive to make. And the only reason we can sell it so cheaply is because we use the tent as a mirror. And otherwise, if we had panels all over, it would cost a lot of money. But my claim, and we're testing saunas. We have enough money now to start testing, and my claim is that we're probably 3 or 5 times more of the active ingredient than any other sauna, because we don't use carbon panels, we don't use ceramic, technology. We use far infrared technology, and we were inspired when a Japanese company said, "Can you create an energy like the healing spas in southern Japan?" And the Relax Sauna said, "Sure." And it took them 10 years to develop the technology to filter out the electricity to give you that energy because there's a preponderance of far infrared energy around these healing spas. And we were able to produce that and have that feeling, because when you go to those spas, there's something there. There's something in the atmosphere. It's that frequency of light. And so because we give you the exact frequency, that's why we can get better results. And again, who am I to, when you hear 20 testimonials about a wooden sauna helping you. It's real. We have 900 testimonies, and thousands of written testimonies that we get. It's really exciting to the first year we were selling it, people said, I couldn't believe how well I slept last night.
Yeah, and that's what a lot of our audience does need, a good night's sleep. So with that, I just want to say a heartfelt thank you to you, Phillip, and we appreciate you joining us to share your knowledge and your passion for infrared healing. And also, we're grateful for the work that you're doing to make it way more accessible for everyone. So can you share again with us, what was the website that people can look you up and learn a little bit more if they're interested in purchasing?
Relaxsaunas.com. And if they go to checkout, if they decide to order a sauna, go there to learn. We got lots of research. And if they decide to order a sauna, they can put in the discount word code function and they'll save $100.
Awesome. We appreciate that. That's very good. So we will keep that in the show notes for everyone. And again, thank you, Phillip, and thank you to our incredible audience for tuning in. It's your commitment really that's driving these continued conversations. So if today's episode sparked any additional ideas or if you have questions, feel free to drop us a message and share this episode with anyone who you know is on this healing journey. Thank you. Take care, everyone.